When I first started playing guitar, one of the hardest things about the guitar was all the strings. There's a ton of strings on the guitar. I didn't know where to start, where to stop, but I just kind of stayed on the bottom. I was just afraid of going up the neck, creating chaos up here, didn't know what to do. Today we're going to cover what's called a bar chord. A bar chord takes the guitar and kind of condenses it down into one single area without adding all the complexity of all the strings doing different things. So a bar chord, simply put, is taking your finger and pushing it on one of the bars or frets all the way across like it's a capo. So really quick, I'm going to read off my notes here. We're going to go through the basic technique, building out the chord itself, bar chords in practice, transitioning the bar chord into different areas of the neck, variations on the actual chord, exploration with the bar chord, like what can you do inside of it, guitar setup, which is a bit important part, and then obviously our final thoughts on what you can do with them after we finish the lesson. First one is the basic technique for playing a bar chord, and I have to tell everyone this. You've got to keep your thumb engaged as much as possible, and you've got to use that pointer finger as strongly as possible. And the best way to do that is to kind of give yourself this hook, kind of hook thing, where you use your forearm to really capture the neck. So if I take my thumb and put it down on the neck, then put my finger across the strings, you'll notice it's really hard to push down your first time doing this. You're used to isolating just your fingertips. But when you do this for the first time, it's going to feel challenging. And that's kind of how bar chords are. They're not super easy to play, and that's why you'll see people start playing a bar chord and then quickly remove elements and add elements away from the bar chord. And bar chords are essentially a way to start something. It's kind of like having a lump of clay and you're going to mold it and shape it into something. But right now, this is like a lump of clay if I put my finger right here, or this right here. It doesn't really matter as long as you know where you are on the neck when you're starting. I always talk about the dots. I like starting on the second dot, which is the 5th fret. The first thing to be aware of is that you have to have constant pressure on the bar chord, on this fret, across all the strings. So if you're playing an open guitar like this, you're essentially playing a bar chord that's being handled by the guitar itself, which is up here. All the strings on the neck up here, I think the nut up here, sorry, are being held up by this piece of plastic or bone, and it's playing all these open. What a bar chord's doing is it's playing the notes as if they were open higher up on the neck. So if I were to play right here, or up here, it just moves the register from low to higher. Now the cool thing about that is if you're playing any traditional chords down low, a lot of the time the guitar is open and you're just playing on this 2nd fret and 3rd fret right here, these two. So if I play like a traditional, you don't have to know this, but like an A chord, or like an E, D. Those are working because the neck is taking care of the rest of the notes. But if we move up, which is what we want to do, we're going to have more freedom to play with more notes without being tied down to the very bottom of the guitar. And a lot of beginner guitars will stay like right here locked in, and they'll just never leave. They never go past here. It's kind of like this is their house and they're scared to go out the front door and explore further. The mindset of what a bar chord represents is exploration. What can I find beyond down here? So I'm going to say the 2nd dot, like I said, put our finger down and play it like this. And then we're going to add our pinky finger. So when I was talking about when I discovered the bar chord, I was playing a power chord like this. That's all I knew and it was fun. But when I had my finger down, I accidentally started playing more notes, and I realized I could play all the notes together. And I was like, wow, this is super cool. This is way easier than I thought it could be to play all the notes. And this is actually like a really common funk chord, like in 1970s disco. You'll hear it used a lot like this. I'm doing some fancy stuff with my pinky, but just note that I'm playing the same hand position here. Variation in the bar chord is really important because the bar chord is a starting point to create more on top of it. So I'm going to stack some fingers on top of here, just like the power chord. I'm going to add my ring finger and my pinky right here like this. Okay? And you can do it either direction, this way or this way. Plays the same notes. But I like doing it this way initially because it gives me more freedom to add more fingers later on. So when you're playing a bar chord, it's going to sound kind of sad like this. That's because it's a minor bar chord. And if you add your middle finger down here, right on the 4th string, makes it a major bar chord. And when I discovered I could make major chords and minor chords with just very minimal movement, it's like the guitar was unlocked. Like, oh, now you can play anything you want. So if I were to play this, in 4 counts, 1, 2, 3, 4, it sounds like a traditional guitar you'd hear at a campfire or something. That's because it's playing all the strings, all through all the strings. And once you start playing with the finger variation, you can kind of hear the difference between the 2 chords. So sculpting the sound is what we're trying to do here. So I'm going to start with the bar chord again, once again here on the 5th fret or the 2nd dot, add my pinky, and now I'm going to try adding all 3 fingers down and see if I can play with this a little bit. So adding and removing these upper fingers right here is what I mean by playing with the chords. So I'm going to play all of them together. And notice the top strings up here are being handled by the bar, by the finger. So I'm not bringing this off at all, I'm keeping it pushed down. Always going to sound good. Take my pinky off, see what happens. Interesting. Let's take off my ring finger. Interesting as well. We already know what the middle finger does. Sound kind of sad. Let's try adding just one. Don't love that one. That one's not bad. That's pretty cool. So let's try adding those 2 notes into a 4-count phrase. So a phrase is basically like a Lego piece in a Lego set. It's building out a part of a song, just like a part of a Lego set if you're building that out. And a phrase is something that you can listen to over and over without getting bored until a certain point. So I'm going to play a phrase here using those 2, like this. I'm going to keep the bass, add my pinky. I'm just going to use actually just my pinky up and down on these 2 frets here because I thought they sounded good. So we're going to start here. So that's kind of cool. So playing in 4, you can hear that could be a phrase. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That could repeat over and over, but it sounds a little bit dry, meaning it feels a little bit like it's missing something, and that's because it's kind of slow. So I'm going to play a little bit faster. Better. Okay, so bar chords are cool because it's opening up a lot of sound. So if I just create a bar chord and just go like this, and I just play this over and over, it just sounds like a lot of noise. Like there's not a lot of intent behind it. And a common complaint with bar chords is it doesn't sound unique, it sounds kind of the same, or it sounds easy after a while because nothing's changed. So I'm going to show you how to break away from that and create better habits with the bar chord, because this is a very habit-forming chord. I'm going to warn you in advance, it's very easy to fall into the safety lull of a bar chord working every time. So I'm going to play these bar chords in a way that makes it sound more fun by opening it up and then closing it down again. So a bar chord's what I call a closed chord, because everything's locked in, your fingers playing the chord, and it's very closed. Now if you open it up and take off the bar, you know that these notes, they're all inside the bar chord. Every single note you played in the bar chord works. So since all those notes work, you can start breaking away from the bar chord, give your ears or the listener's ears a break and play individual notes. So here's an example of playing and then breaking away and then coming back in again. And remember, always thinking about that phrase you're trying to build as you start from the beginning to the end. So here we go. Notice I went down. So what I did there was I opened up the bar chord. So those runs I'm doing are just going up on the dots. I'm just following these dots, here, 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 here. And the reason that works is because it's inside the bar chord, inside the same key, essentially. This form of the bar chord can be played anywhere. So if I were to go down here, the hand position is the same in both places. So it's just like a power chord if you've played those before, where you just, but just using all your fingers. Really fun to play. Now, with that opening up the chord, now having a closed bar chord, you can start to play with a lot of variation. So here's an example where I can start with just 2 fingers playing in the bar, and then go down, and I could go up, way up here on the neck. I'm just playing 2 fingers with the bar. So watch this. Okay, so now we know we can move around with that and we can open it up. Let's try using that phrase. So here's the phrase. And it starts there again. So I'm going to take that phrase, I'm going to crack open the middle part where it kind of has like a transition. So it goes. Okay, so bar chords, using them in combination like that, create a really interesting phrase. And when you have a lot of interesting phrases you can work on, I could keep working on that and keep trying different things in there, but I'm really keeping it locked in to that hand position and just knowing what the safe notes are to play. And once you get into that locked in phrase, you might have a part of the song you could use at some point. And if you have enough phrases that you've written and played with and sculpted up, you might be able to put them all together like a Lego set and have a full build. Really cool, which is what I would call a song. So bar chords are really meant to be a starting point that you can build off of, and then you can expand from there. Now, one thing to be aware of with bar chords is if you're following along and you're struggling right now and like, my hand hurts, my fingers hurt, my arm hurts, yes, that might be happening. But what might be happening is you might have a guitar that needs to be set up. So if you have a guitar store or a guitar shop that's local, take it in. It's about $40. They'll take the strings, bring them down a little bit so the action's better. And they can also put on thinner strings that are a little bit lighter gauge. They won't sound quite as good, but they'll help your hand feel a little better as you're learning the form and technique for it. And I don't tell people to immediately go and do that, because that's telling you to spend money, and pushing the guitar away once again. Try this without, obviously. Figure out what works for you with your hand position. The thumb's a big part. But ultimately, my final thoughts are really that the bar chord is meant to be a fun chord to play for me. And when I discovered the bar chord, it was like revolutionary. I was like, wow, I can play so much without knowing anything. It doesn't require knowing theory or anything like that. It just simply works. And I can pick anywhere on the neck, like right here. Okay, here we go. Have fun with it, explore it, but give your hand a break every once in a while because it can get really tiring on your wrists. So have fun playing, guys.